Cindy comes though.
Nice sweater.
I mean, she can
Thank
sit
you.
up there. Yeah.
You know that, correct?
Should I just put Cindy over there?
It has to be nice, my wife got it.
All right. Right answer.
One of my sisters passed away just like that.
Thank you. So we could put Cindy next to you.
I can give it to me, sure. No, definitely not. I went to sleep on December 10th thinking she was fine and well, and in the middle of the night, found out she was really ill and then she died.
We ready? Let's begin. Welcome to the Human Rights Commission. Let's begin by roll call. Linda, would you start?
Oh, sure.
Just so people know who we are.
Yes, Linda Winkler, Human Rights Commission.
Corinne Moore, Human Rights Commission.
Vivian Jane.
Leslie Stamba.
Pamela Dent.
I'm David Baum, Braden Crapel, City Council.
William Hampton, NAACP.
Luai Shalabe, Human Rights.
And,
Howard Lazarus, City Administrator.
thank you. And Heather.
Yes, I'm Heather. I'm the staff liaison to the commission.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, I was right.
First thing on the agenda, as usual, is public comments. We have one person who wants to speak, Libby Hunter.
There are many, many cases nationwide of innocent people being injured or murdered in SWAT raids. You don't have to look any farther than Detroit for one of the most publicized of these cases, the SWAT team murder of 8-year-old Ayanna Stanley Jones. Here in Washtenaw County, the Metro SWAT team raided a home in Ypsilanti last week, possibly, recently, where they tased a man 3 times and then shot him in his hip. Are these actions what our SWAT team does to de-escalate, physically and painfully subdue and then take away? What is the written policy and training for SWAT, for Ann Arbor officers, and for sheriff deputies when de-escalating? 2 of the SWAT team leaders are Ann Arbor, the county ones, are Ann Arbor police officers. Radical Washtenaw is waiting for answers. We are also waiting for Ora Rosser's police murder case to reopen as the ACLU has called for. We are waiting for SWAT teams in our county to be defunded. We are waiting for the demilitarization of law enforcement, and for the least among us, the poor and homeless, to tell us they are never harassed by law enforcement. Same goes for people with darker skin pigmentation. The time is now to dig into these problems since a national spotlight is focused directly on them. We cannot be afraid to probe for accurate information. Lastly, I'm going to be emailing each of you a copy of a recent ACLU report on Michigan joining the nationwide push for community control over police surveillance. So I'll email everybody a copy of that. Yes, and that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Changes and approval to the agenda. Does anybody have anything on the agenda that they need to talk about that isn't on already? Or any changes? I would like to recommend a modification. We've got one big topic having to do with the responsive to the RFP and our recommendation about that. I don't know how long it's going to take. If it takes most of our meeting, I want to be flexible. What I'd like to do is just allow for 2 subjects at the end, the approval of the minutes that I think we have to do, and the election of officers so that we have officers for the next meeting. So I might drop some of those other things if we go too long. Is that all right?
Yep.
Would it be better to reorganize them so those two things go first then? So
I'd
we
rather
can-
not.
Okay.
This just seems to make more sense to me, if you don't mind, flexibility. Can we have a motion to accept?
I'll move to accept with the potential modification.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now to our major topic, and I'm going to ask City Administrator Howard Lazarus to start.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to join you this evening. In general, before I get into the meat of the conversation, city staff is going to bring items of concern before the relevant commissions for their consideration and recommendation to council, because we want to respect the role that all of you play in the community and the specialized expertise you have in the various areas that are related to your service on boards and commissions. So what you're seeing tonight reflects that desire to both, again, respect your service and also take advantage of your expertise, so that when these matters come before council, they will know what the commissions feel about them. It'll also help us to address your concerns earlier so that we can speak with a greater degree of unity and unanimity when we go before council. The item on your agenda this evening is discussion of the selection of a respondent to the RFP we put out to perform an independent analysis of the Ann Arbor Police Department's community engagement practices. This has been an item I know of importance and concern for this commission for quite some time. And upon my arrival in Ann Arbor, we picked it up with the intent to deliver a product at the end that met the concerns of the community, but also did that with significant and meaningful participation from the Ann Arbor Police Department. We went through a process that was inclusive and one that I wanted to ensure did not leave any impression that there was a preordained outcome to the process. So the product before you, and I'd like to talk about product and then process a little bit. The product before you is a contract agreement with the firm of, I don't know the name now, Hines, Hillard Hines, thank you, to perform the assessment. It's divided into 3 phases. What we are asking for right now is approval of the entire contract, but the execution of that will be done in phases. The first phase is very heavy on community engagement with many opportunities for outreach and input. It also will go through an evaluation of training practices, staffing practices, the effectiveness of the CALIA accreditation process in addressing some concerns, and will also make recommendations as to the form and substance of an advisory or review board. That is listed in the work plan you saw as a phase 2 item, but I have spoken with the consultant and we're going to make sure that gets done up front. Right now there is partial funding in the current year's budget, and we're putting sufficient funding to complete the phase 1 activities in the upcoming fiscal year 18 budget. Obviously that will be pending approval by council. At the time we get the phase 1 product, we'll be able to evaluate how much further we want to go into data analysis. Phase 3 is a follow-up. The important part of any review, any analysis, is to assess whether you followed up on the recommendations that were made. So phase 3 does include an 18-month review period from the time of the report to the time that they come back and see if we've acted on the recommendations. So it builds accountability into the process. Hillard Hines is a very well-known firm. The process to select them resulted in a unanimous decision that they were the best qualified. They're a firm that has over 50 full-time staff, where some of the other offerers were consultants that pieced together their team, and it was evident during the review process that they may not have worked together for a long period of time. Their staff includes not only people who have experience in law enforcement, but also people who have work in the justice area. They have people who have worked on community policing. They also have representatives who have worked with different segments of the community, including those who may otherwise not be included. So it is a very diverse group that they have. They are permanent. They have established working relationships. They are out of Chicago, so their commitment to being here in Ann Arbor is something that we can count on. I want to talk a little bit about the process because, as I said, I wanted to make sure that it was inclusive, and when we went to council, it would be something that all of us could agree would achieve the outcomes that we wanted. So we started early on and engaged several members of not only the Human Rights Commission, but also the community in developing the statement of work. We looked at other cities, including Madison. There was some things from Newark, New Jersey, from Boulder, Colorado, and other areas. And we took the best parts of those, but we also included things that were of significant interest and specific to the Ann Arbor community. We ran the draft back and forth to the participants. We posted the draft on the city's website for a 30-day comment period, and we held an open house in the atrium of City Hall. We responded to every question we got, also by posting it on the city's website. At that point, the group reconvened and we went through the process of soliciting the offerers. In addition to a general posting, we received input from members of the commission on firms that they would like to have the opportunity to respond. And we also invited all of them. And in fact, the 6 offers that we received were all directly related to the recommendations that we received from the panel members. While the RFP was out for response, the panel met to discuss the evaluation criteria. And what was unique here is the panel did not just function in an advisory role, but they were in the decision-making process. It was one of the very few times I've had over a very long career that we have had people from outside the municipal structure actually making a decision and voting on who would be the selected offerer to the city. So it wasn't that city staff listened and then went to a back room somewhere and made the decision. The decision as to who we were going to make the award to was done by the very community members who participated in the process throughout its development. We've kept to the schedule. Our goal after this evening is to get the recommendation to council most likely at the first meeting in March. The intent in doing this under a very strict and rigorous schedule was to make sure that we could program funds for next year to make sure we could get to a conclusion. So the next step in the process is for you to consider and make a recommendation, hopefully a positive one, to the City Council for their consideration so that when this appears on the council agenda, they will know that you've reviewed it and hopefully you support it. So thank you very much, and hopefully, I can respond to any questions that you may have.
Questions? Are there any questions about the process, first of all? Why don't we
I
take it?
just want to thank you for the thorough process, and clearly you selected what appears to me to be an outstanding group that is going to look at the sorts of things that I at least had in mind, and I think the commission had in mind, so I really appreciate that.
I'd like to add to what Linda said. I was impressed by both the process and the proposal. This commission spent many, many hours talking about citizen review long before I joined the commission in the middle of last year. And one of the things that really struck me about the proposal, which is balanced and thorough in a lot of ways, but it appears to me that they took very seriously the thinking and the work that this commission did on that particular issue and integrated it into multiple phases of their proposal. And I give the firm credit. I give Hillard Hines credit, but I also want to give credit to the group of you, including our commissioners, but the rest of the people, for making sure that was emphasized in this process.
I would be remiss if I did not mention that Chief Barrett and Sergeant Metzger also participated, so that at the end, this is not going to be either something that has been preordained or something that has been forced upon the Ann Arbor Police Department. Both Chief Barrett and Sergeant Metzger have both enthusiastically embraced the process and will have a part in, will participate in the review, and in the end they will also accept and implement with good spirit and good intentions the outcomes of the process.
Maybe I invited William Hampton here, who is the president of the NAACP, because he was also on the panel, and you might want to say a few words about that experience, and I'll ask.
Well, I would just like to say that of the candidates that we interviewed, all of them could have handled this proposal. They could have handled it well. But we, surprisingly, all agreed that the person that's before you tonight is the person that we all selected.
Corinne, you want to add to that?
I'm sorry, I have a cold. I do want to say that, you know, I really enjoyed working with the group, and I think everybody participated, and we worked really hard on putting this together and really going through all of the prospective applicants. So I think we did a great job, and I really look forward to continuing the process. So.
Mm-hmm. Dwight is at I think 2 funerals now, but he also sent a message that he was very happy with the outcome and still supports it. And I too was on the group and was very impressed with the amount of vetting that we did, the amount of talking about it, the way it came together. People didn't start agreeing, but they came to start seeing the task in the same way, and they wanted the same things. And I'm just very optimistic about the possibility that we can do this, that this is really going to be good for Ann Arbor.
I guess I do have a question to you, and maybe I don't know if I should be asking this, but do you anticipate any problem with the funding for this going forward?
I don't have any reason to believe there would be. It's we start the budget process in earnest next week. We did have a work session with council to talk about long-range issues and horizon issues in December, and this was something that we mentioned. Mm-hmm. You know, council has a difficult chore every year in allocating limited resources to unlimited needs, mm-hmm. but we have included this as a council priority, and I would hope and would expect that they will ask some tough questions, mm-hmm. but in the end I think they will recognize the importance of the effort to the community.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question. Assuming that this is approved by council and based on the schedule that is identified in the proposal, since you've indicated that they probably won't act on this until the March meeting, but the proposal mentions commencement in this month.
Right.
So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that that schedule will be adjusted accordingly.
It will. The original intent was to get this to council in February, but we had one of the things that occurred in the process was we did provide for interviews, and probably didn't account for that in the schedule. Mm-hmm. We'll tell you what we did that's also unusual in the schedule as part of the interviews is we offered to pay a limited amount of travel costs for the offers who were selected to interview, because we didn't want that cost to be a burden or a hurdle that maybe some of the smaller firms couldn't address. Mm-hmm. So in order to make sure that we got the most responsive firm, we offered to at least pay for some travel cost. So the couple weeks slippage really is just due to the fact that we had interviews, which I don't think I incorporated into the schedule initially.
The interviews were very interesting in that I think we all learned from seeing all of them. They all were, almost all of them were very, very good. And as William said, I think any one of them could have done this work. We really, the group that was selected really blew us away. They were very good.
I want to also though stress again that they have a organization and staffing that is diverse in their gender, ethnicity, and background. It is not just a group of former police officers who are looking for a second career. It is a well-organized, well-structured firm that can address not only the legal aspects, but also the community aspects of what we're looking for.
So I actually had a question about that. I was going over the firm profiles, and I agree that it seems like a very diverse firm in a lot of different areas. But something I was thinking of when I was going through those profiles is that as a matter of maybe optics, I guess, it does seem like the vast majority of the firm members spent their entire careers in law enforcement, like 20 years with Illinois Police, 30 years in law enforcement in some capacity or the other. Is there any reason to believe that like this strong background could bias them in any way, like towards a certain finding in favor of the police or not?
As part of the, after we identified Hillard Hines as the best qualified, Ms. Stambach did some background on their performance, and I actually called their references. And I spoke to representatives in Boulder, in Denver, and in a town in Illinois. And in fact, all of them said that they were very rigorous and were very fair. And in one case, they actually took over the police department because it had experienced some corruption. So I don't think we have to worry about a bias towards law enforcement agencies.
I'll ask another question. I wonder about in the first phase, reaching out to community groups to get input on the situation. You probably asked this during the interview, but did they describe how they go about identifying those groups? Will they, I guess the second part of that is, I think we on the Human Rights Commission would like to help identify those groups and connect this consultant with the leaders of various groups to the extent that we can, in addition to however they do it. So. Yeah.
So I'll defer to your chair for her observations, and certainly if Mr. Hampton has some he'd like to add, and Ms. Moore as well, as to what their thoughts are and how they responded to that question.
Yeah, I think they responded well. I think they're definitely aware that they need ties inside the community to find out who to talk to. And they would be very open to help, and would be very helpful in giving it to them. Great. Did you get the same impression?
Absolutely. We had at least one community meeting where we talked a lot about how best to access the people who needed to be accessed by this consulting group. I feel pretty confident that they can meet our expectations.
Yeah, I agree. It was something we talked about in detail in the interviews as well, because we were concerned that if they didn't have an idea about who they needed to talk to or what community is, then they wouldn't be able to give us the feedback we wanted. And so they definitely gave us the feedback we wanted when we talked about what community meant and how it was defined and how that outreach, what methods they would use to actually make sure they were getting the feedback and input to inform the process. So.
Thank you.
Good.
Kind of along those same lines, and maybe this was addressed by the group that did the vetting and the interviewing and the ultimate determination to select this group. So if it's a duplication, then feel free to correct me. But my question speaks to what the commission ultimately engaged in and what we envision ideally would occur going forward. So more from a historical perspective, is it known if this entity has recommended a police oversight review board? And if so, how often has that occurred, or has it not occurred?
When we asked that question to all the interviewed firms, I think without exception they all stated that in every case they were asked to look at a review board, they always recommended that there would be a review board established. What we've asked Hillard Hines to do in this case, rather than come to us with a one-size-fits-all approach, is to, after discussion with the community, make some recommendations as to the form and structure of that board to meet our needs.
This may be the first, to my knowledge, the first assessment of our professional standards division by citizens of Ann Arbor.
And really, a more direct answer is I don't know what the outcome is going to be, nor should I know what the outcome is going to be before we get through the process.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we found from talking to 4 people who are really tops in their field, they all knew each other. They competed against each other in many municipalities. But it was clear that there is not one right way and one person knows it. This is going to take a lot of creativity, a lot of real good thought, participation, maybe some trial and error too. One of the things that I think we all felt was comfort that they could handle all of that and finally get us to a place where we might end up being the leaders in this. It's not like there are thousands of them that are working really well. There are some that are working very well and better than others, and there's a mix. But we have an opportunity here to create what we want and try it and make it right, and I don't know. It's possible. That's what we're going for. Other questions, other observations, thoughts? Are you ready to make a decision? Yeah? Okay, there are 2 parts to this decision. Or maybe one part is, do you want to make a recommendation? Are you willing to make a recommendation? Somebody want to make I guess somebody should make a motion to recommend this to City Council.
So moved. I guess I'll say I move that the commission approve Hillard Hines as the police review consultant. I'm not sure I'm using the correct term, but and recommend to the commission that they so approve.
City council.
Or what did I say? Commission to City Council is what I meant. Thank you.
I'll second that.
I'm sure you'll get that, Heather, right? You'll straighten that out for me. Thank you.
Any-
Sorry, what do you want to call the?
Officially.
The acceptance of their proposal.
Proposal 9 of our.
motion to recommend.
The acceptance.
I just wanted to make sure.
Are we accepting the hiring of this firm or the detailed project plan or both?
The recommendation to council will be to accept staff's proposal to award contract. And if I could just add 2 things. One is to follow up the question you asked before. Council will know at the time they act on this that additional funding will be required, so that while it's not a guarantee, I think it's implicit in that there'll be funding made available. Also, there will be a pre-assessment visit that we will have an opportunity to sit with Hillard Hines and make adjustments to the work plan, and we can make that, the form and structure of that really hasn't been determined, so we can have the same, many of the same members who participated in the process up to now, part of that process as well.
Okay,
So we need to vote.
So we need to vote on recommending the firm that was selected by the panel.
You know, if there's a concern that about the way the work plan is right now with the assessment of the reviewer advisory board moving into the first phase, you could recommend that as well, that you could recommend approval with, you recommend award of the contract with the recommendation that the advisory or review board be considered in phase one. If you want to do, if that
That the advisory board be what?
can be part of phase one, because right now the way the work plan is written, it's
Okay.
not there, and you could do that. That way,
The advisory board would be a part of phase one.
that way, if you have any concerns that it's not there now, you're on record as saying that you'd like it moved up and included in the preliminary scope. And that's not
I
a
do
matter of
like
not.
that.
It's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
matter of not having trust. It's a matter of making sure that your concerns are expressed formally.
Yes.
Yeah, because the initial report that came out of this group was not to analyze whether we needed a police oversight board or not. It was to get an auditor to figure out what kind of an oversight board we wanted. So I think it's very essential that the recommendation we give that makes it clear once again, because I think, Pam, you just raised that question, whether these auditors had recommended, do they have a track record of recommending? But that was not even we took it to council because that was the resolution that came out of this body to help us hire an auditor so that the auditor can help us set up not only a police oversight board, but the needed ordinance change that has to come about in order to have that body, functioning body. So,
And that's all in this contract,
Right.
basically, with that one change.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused only in that I see under proposed scope of work phase one, number 11,
Yes.
that it will include providing recommendations for a model and implementation plan for civilian oversight of the APD. Are you talking about going further than that in phase one then?
Yes, I think he's talking about,
Okay.
there's also in phase two, in this write-up,
Number 8, I think it is. and somebody might know.
So actually going
Yeah.
ahead and
I marked it.
beginning to form it?
Here it is,
phase
yes,
one?
it was,
On page 12 of that work plan,
thank you.
if you look at where it says site visit 2, it talks about
Oh.
civilian oversight policy, protocol development.
Yes.
So when I spoke to Mr. Boucher, he agreed that we can move that further up.
Okay, great.
So
Okay.
just again, to make sure that you capture your concerns, your recommendation could include that scope, part of the scope of work is part of phase one.
It says, okay.
Should we amend the recommendation?
So what do you have now, Heather, for the resolution?
David Baum made a motion to have the Human Rights Commission recommend Hillard Hines as the consultant to City Council, seconded by Al Winkler.
Okay, so take the second off for a minute
Okay.
and include with the one modification that the help with
Well, why don't you
starting
just
the review board
Civilian oversight policy, is how they refer to it in their proposal.
You should
that is
use
now
that
specified in phase two it should now be take place under phase one. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you should maybe use their words, the civilian oversight policy and protocol development will be
Okay.
moved from
Phase 2 to phase 1.
phase 2 to phase 1.
David, is that in fact your?
That, I accept that amendment to my motion.
Okay.
It was friendly.
And I'm still seconding.
I hope Robert of Robert's Rules doesn't turn over in his grave. And you're seconding. Okay, do you have it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, just as some parting thoughts. Life's about relationships, and a big part of this process was building those relationships, not only for me, but among the panel members and the first step towards our police department. So I think I would share in the comments from the board members here that it was a very positive experience, as well as us getting to the point where the commission had wanted to get to with the statement of work. So thank you all very much for your willing participation and the positive spirit that you brought to the process.
Thank you.
Can I ask a few questions?
Certainly.
Are we free to circulate the profiles, for example?
So
let's
I'm
assume
going to defer a little bit
Okay.
to Mr. Postma, but up until now, many of what, in terms of what can be held under FOIA as part of the procurement process, and then once we've reached the decision point, what we should be able to share.
I think that I may have to go back and I look at it a little further. I'm not going to give an answer right now, but I think that depending on what was promised when they went out, they were all finalists in some ways. The full proposals that they did, and including any pricing or any bid pricing, there's a sensitive issue about that. In fact, that's being addressed right now with even more specific FOIA legislation. But the full scope of their of what they submitted, I'd have to look at that again to answer that. So I would ask you to wait on that. Certainly, the finalist and the materials submitted about who is recommended. That certainly is a matter of public record now, because they went through a process and they identified a finalist. As to all of the materials they looked at, I want to look at that one more time and go back to see what was submitted. And so, certainly we have time to do that. There's no need to get that out immediately. But the finalists that you're recommending, and it was unanimous on that. I think that certainly is public. So we'll look at that as far as what's distributed out there.
Okay.
My apologies for putting you on the spot, but I want to make sure that we are.
Yeah, and the reason I answer in that way is that it's just proper to be prudent in this area.
It'd be nice to be as open as we can, as soon as we can.
Absolutely.
So this proposal then we can share?
Or not?
The work plan?
The work plan?
Well, the one that you're recommending.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, so we could put it on our website, for example.
Yes.
Okay.
Realizing that it'll be a modification made to it, but sure.
Right.
And I'll forward that as soon as we get it.
Right. Good. Second question I have is, would you like some of us there to speak in favor of it at the city council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So just as a matter of procedure, we tend to put staff recommendations on the consent agenda, so someone will have to
We can bring it up.
take it off.
Sumi or I can ask to have it brought up.
And also during a public commentary, they could sign up and speak too. You have done that before,
I
right?
have done that
Yeah.
also, if you want.
So can we take this for the second meeting instead of waiting till March? Second February.
Oh, for the, 20? I will,
Yeah.
I don't see a reason not
wondering
to.
whether we should just.
26th. I think we can add it to the agenda if you'd like.
We can, right?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good idea. Why delay, right?
The 21st.
What is it?
First.
Right.
21st Monday?
It's a Tuesday.
It's a
So,
Tuesday?
Week from Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
President's Day is Monday.
Oh, okay. President's Day.
21st.
So I think we can do that. We can enter it into the system, and then we can always change the attachment later.
Okay. Is there anything else we have to do? I assume we're going to be talking about this again at other points, but this is a good start.
I have just a quick question. I was looking over the profiles and the name is Hillard Hines,
Hillard Hines.
but Hillard is not included.
Hillard
So
is
I
retired.
I understand that.
Yeah. Oh.
But the name is Hillard Hines. So my first question is, who's Hillard?
Mr. Hillard's the founder of the
Yeah,
firm.
I know who he is.
Yeah.
I'm saying he's not included in the profile. And so you have a name that is associated with this firm that we've chosen
Oh,
and
I see.
recommended, and yet he's not deceased. He's not in absentia. So I just wondered why he wasn't included. I understand that he's retired. But for me, if I'm reading something and there's nothing there that speaks to that, it raises a question for me. I mean, I Googled it, I have his picture, I know who he is. But I'm just saying, he's not included in the data that we receive or the information, and he is the face, in fact, he's the co-founder.
Is that, I think the purpose for that, they were requested to submit materials on the people who would actually be doing
Right.
the work here. Some of the companies were 50, 60, some of them were smaller. They didn't list all of the people, and so I think one of the reasons that was from their end that they did this, I'm assuming, is that they were following the instructions of the RFP.
Otherwise it'll be misleading,
It was
right?
just our team that we
That's
asked.
exactly right.
Exactly.
In fact, I think they would not want to put somebody on
Who would
was
not be
specifically
absent.
not
Right.
requested. And so,
I think that's the reason.
that's what that would be the reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of how much bigger Hillard Hines is than the people who are working on
Oh,
this
they're
project?
much larger.
Are they?
Yeah,
I
in
didn't-
fact,
I
there's
didn't
a
go to the website.
photograph on.
There would be about, I think this one had
Lisa?
about 50.
50 people.
Yeah.
So that means they have all the resources in-house that they need to complete the scope of work, and they'll draw from that expertise as they need to.
So would we know the final price tag of this, depending on the work schedule, what's finalized, so we don't yet have a,
No, we have a cost proposal from them for the first phase.
for the first phase, but now the second phase, part of second phase is being moved to the first phase, right?
And I'll talk to Mr. Boucher
Okay.
tomorrow.
Mhm.
He had indicated they could do that.
Mhm.
We may have to restack some things a little bit, but when it comes to council, you'll know the cost. And it will be a not to exceed cost.
Anything else?
No?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
very
Ian.
much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity and for
Good
making
job.
this really an enjoyable process and not one that was dreaded. So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Shall we move to the minutes? Does anybody need a copy? I have one extra copy, I think, maybe two.
Thank you.
Suggestions to the changes of minutes? Questions about the minutes? I can start.
You want to start? I've got a couple.
I have two things. I'd like to see the communications text changed to, this is my suggestion, Vivian, you may have something different. L. Stambaugh and V. Chang discuss some of the changes being made to increase HRC communication to the community and further outreach opportunities. A meeting exploring these opportunities will be scheduled at some time in the future. And I will give this, Heather, I have it. I'll give it to you.
Okay.
But,
That's fine.
okay, so that's it. Anybody have any trouble with that? I have one other change, and that is, under E, police review effort was discussed, because it's not just the board.
And I have under annual reports updates, and I can show you too, Heather, but I'll just read it. So it currently says, L. Stambaugh discussed the 2 annual reports that the HRC needs to produce. Then I would change the rest of it to read this way. The first is a report on compliance of city vendors with the non-discrimination ordinance. The second is a report on complaints received by and other work of the HRC. It's substantively the same, it's just, I hope a little clearer. If that's okay.
Anything else?
Should there be something in the minutes to indicate that there is now a change in membership? Since
Oh, it is there. Yes, it's on the first
Bottom of page 1.
bottom of page 1.
Announcements.
Oh, I wanted to change to, it says, L. Stanbaugh announced that Kay Cowan has resigned from the commission for personal reasons. Okay.
yeah, sorry.
And I should tell you that the mayor is on the task, and also that Rick Radcliffe has put in his recommendation, and I'm gonna call the mayor tomorrow.
His application.
Application. Rick Radcliffe, who has been volunteering for us and has been very helpful. But it's obviously at the pleasure of the mayor, and we'll see what happens. Would you pass this down to Heather? Minutes. Any other changes to the minutes? Any other comments? Can we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next task. Communications update. Vivian, do you have a final version of the flyer?
No, because I don't currently have a copy of InDesign.
Okay.
And edits were made after they sent us the InDesign copy, so I don't have a
Okay.
copy because their edits weren't sent back to Lisa Wondrash yet.
Okay. Has everybody seen it? You've all seen versions of it. I have a version too, but it looks sort of like this. I mean, I have it. If you want a copy, but it'll look a little bit different. Do you think they can give us some color?
I'm not sure.
I would love to see a little color,
Yeah.
even if it's just a little, or even the shaded a little color.
Something.
The thing I like about it best is it's sort of strange, but we're gonna have this translated, and it would be nice if they all sort of looked the same and had the colors so that people would say, oh, it's unless we have a logo that says like discrimination with a, I like that. I think David Baum suggested that.
I don't know if I could cross-sign it.
Yes. I don't know, but it would be nice if it were recognizable. We may have to start branding. Branding is a nice thing to do.
And thank you, Pam, for noticing that the phone number was incorrect.
Oh, gosh, thanks.
And also adding the fact that we want people to be able to email the complaints.
Yeah, that
That's
would be nice
important.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
are we just then waiting to get a final version back from the city with color,
Well,
hopefully, or?
Yeah,
We just
and I
sent Vivian the
don't think
final.
we're gonna we're not gonna wait to approve
Yeah.
it again, are we?
I got several emails from different people with other edits, and so.
Oh.
Just little edits.
I vacationed for the past week, so I haven't.
We do overdo
So
sometimes.
I think there were 2 rounds of approvals, and then after the last round, there were more edits from people,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
we have not caught up to that yet.
Okay, but we're very, very close. None of those
Does
edits
anybody
were.
feel they need to see it again? It's pretty much the same, just
Yeah.
Yes.
nothing substantive.
And it will be so nice to have, I already have an idea for what we can do with it.
Right.
And yeah, so I think this is, it could be an entree to places that we want. Remember, we were doing things, we're going to have to, for this contract, we're going to have to mobilize lots of people. We will have, if having a flyer means that we can go into an organization, maybe a church, maybe a school, give them the flyer and introduce ourselves and start getting to know people and finding out who in that organization should be interviewed, should be on our mailing list, so that we can keep giving people updates about what's going on. This is a time when we really want to draw on the community and get lots of participation. So having this is just super. Thank you so much. Very nice.
It will also, will it not, be included in the information that is given to vendors who either are doing business with the city or anticipate being selected as finalists once contracts have been bid?
Very interesting. Hadn't even thought of it.
I think it should.
I think you're right. I think you're right, which means we may need more than 100.
We will need more than 100.
Yeah. Well, you know, we can get them.
It'll be on our website though, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So there's hope for us.
But I'm just saying, with the packet that is sent to all those who bid on doing, who want to do business with the city, I
Mhm.
think that they should have this, because then, once they are awarded that contract, then they should post that prominently
Right.
in their premises.
Right. It's a good idea. Good idea. We've talking. I sent you notes. We had a conversation with Rick Radcliffe about just how to get things out. And he came up with a list, and Linda added to that list, I think doubled that list, about how to, where these can be placed. These are flyers. Where can they be placed? I think at the next meeting, we're gonna give everybody so many and divvy them out, and I hope that's all right with people.
Yes.
But again, I think that we're talking not just posting it up, I think we're introducing ourselves. We may be offering maybe an introductory presentation or something. And we also want to find out who wants to get our emails about what's going on, especially with this police review and the kinds of interviews they want to do and public forums, et cetera.
Can I add to that? I wonder if, Rick had sent his top 10, whatever, and I added 10 that came to my mind. I'm wondering if we should just kind of pass it around over the course of the next few weeks, if we could come up with a list of, as many as we can.
Yeah.
And then divvy them up that way so that we're not duplicating efforts.
Sounds good.
So I think you all received Rick's notes and a list of now about 20 or 25 places. So if you could take a minute and look at it and add to it and send it out to everybody, and we'll just keep doing it like that, or however makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Do you want to do that in a Word document again, or do you want to do that in the body of an email?
I don't know. You're smarter on this than I am. What do you suggest?
I just
Do you-
think it's
do you want-
easier
do you
to
want to
edit
Word?
and send if it's via email
Okay.
instead of us having to if you're on your phone and you think of something, you can just
Okay.
email back and add something to the email
Okay,
chain and
so
send
do you want me
over
to,
a Word document.
so I could take the 20, put it in an email and send it out?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. The other thing that I know about communications, and you might have more, is that we got another report of analytics about our webpage, and it shows that it has pretty much doubled in the half year. They give us a year of data,
Yeah.
and the number of hits to our webpage has almost doubled since we asked last in March. And that's interesting. So we have this whole report. Anybody who knows a lot about reports, we can share this with you, and you can get some, analyze it. I haven't looked at it very carefully, but I will. And I think it's fascinating. We're becoming popular, and that may be a way that we measure whether we're getting to the community, but we want to get more and more into the community now that we're doing something that the community's going to be interested in. Anything else, Vivian?
Yes, several other things. So there was a social media update made again for this meeting that was approved by Lisa and you, and also the administrator. the complaint form, I did send around a French translation, and because my French translator had some questions about, I didn't get any feedback on that.
Oh, it wasn't just to look at the French, my
No.
French isn't good enough to.
No, so there were notes in the document where she asked for several.
I didn't look.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I didn't see
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
Okay.
I sent the email saying that Michelle has offered some alternative suggestions for the translations she's made, and I thought I'd let everyone else take a look to see if anything needed changing.
Okay.
And so there's a few notes that offered different translations of certain items,
Okay,
and so we would like feedback on that.
okay, good.
So if we don't speak French, we should check with somebody who does.
But your question has to do with the English meaning and how it would translate, or is it translating to the French?
To some extent, so there are several different ways you could translate certain things depending on what you want to get out of them.
I see.
For example, like human rights, she says droit de l'homme is more traditional, but she went with droit de la personne as it's more inclusive. It's like homme is man and person is person.
Okay.
And she says, I believe it's a preferred term in some Canadian organizations, and droit humain would also work, but she thinks it's more of an Anglicism.
She asked the question intelligently, maybe we should
Yeah.
give her intelligent
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah, okay,
It's
so
more
I didn't
inclusive.
get the notes either.
Or questions about what we're really trying to get at with veteran status or the situation of the family. And she said that she translated one as situation de famille, and she said this might have more of a marital status connotation instead of a family status connotation. So what are we like really looking to get out of asking that in a bullet point? So
Okay.
a few questions
Okay,
like
we'll
that.
try to address that.
Got it.
Yeah, I sent her the non-discrimination ordinance so she could read the definitions that we had, but there were still a few things that she was struggling with, so.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
excellent.
Yeah, the Chinese translation's almost done. Looking to finding a Japanese translator, and the Korean translation will probably be done next month. I did have a question for the flyer. We do have a Spanish translation of the complaint form. Who translated that for us?
Yes,
Um,
Linda.
I think Nancy.
Yes, there was somebody who does the
Nancy knew
translation
Nancy
for
Nehemiah.
the city government.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, she knew somebody. She had somebody working there who
Yeah.
did it.
Is
We
that
can
someone-
ask her again
Okay.
Yeah.
Who?
for the flyer. We don't know who
in
it
the
is. Nancy
legal
Niemela
department.
from the
She's
legal
she's
department.
a lawyer in the city attorney's
Okay.
office.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Luai, you said you had somebody who could do some translation for us, do you think?
Yes.
That would be superb.
Yeah.
For
For
both
the
the
flyer
flyer
and
and the
the
complaint.
complaint
Would be
form.
good.
I'll try.
Thank you.
That would be very nice.
Okay.
This is, we're doing, I'm excited. I'm just excited, this is cool. Anything else, Vivian? That's a
No, I
lot.
don't think so.
You know?
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda has to do with the city council resolution, that both our liaisons, Sumi and Graydon, were co-sponsored. Sumi, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Which resolution?
This is the resolution.
The one on Monday?
Yes, the one on Monday.
The immigration.
legislation tax?
You want this?
Oh.
Did it pass?
Is it this
Yeah,
one?
Yeah.
yes.
This one?
Of course.
This
Yes,
one, correct?
yes.
Oh, I thought we are supposed to take one. Do you want to go first, or?
Well, yeah, I can. The resolution was essentially to go back, to look at what actually came out of the executive branch of the government late last month, and in context have the staff, city staff, and city attorney look at it and actually come up with what are, as we move forward with this, so that we thoroughly understand what it means and what the impact it has locally, as we look to make decisions about where we want to go in terms of, let's say, sanctuary status and those types of stuff. So it's clearly understood, since there's a lot of things being said in the press and public, but how it really goes, they had the hearing today that didn't sound like it came out too favorably for the administration side at this point, but we'll have to wait and see. And then, I think we're looking, within the month to probably have something back, to be able to provide some of the answers and better information to us.
Yeah, so I don't know if members of this commission are getting emails and calls. I mean, as city council members, I mean, it's just like non-stop. I mean, when I go home, literally, I mean, the phone keeps ringing all the time.
From
because
people
are-
who
Oh,
don't-
residents, I mean, they're just really, I mean, it's heartwarming because what's happening is just terrifying. I mean, it's unbelievable. But then to see that so many people care so much, so deeply, is what makes me feel like.
Are they
oh,
worried? I mean, I know that ICE has been around.
Yeah, they're just
And-
worried about minorities. They're not calling about themselves. Majority
Really?
of them are majority community, I believe.
Yeah.
But it's just they feel like this is wrong and what can we do? And a lot of them seem to want this sanctuary city. That's why the resolution basically, it's not backing out of not doing it, but we just want to make sure due diligence that we know the consequences. Okay, if this is what we are going to lose in terms of federal dollars, this is it. So then we can put it out there, right, to the
Yeah,
city
because some of the
members.
concerns raised whether we,
Right.
it potentially could lose Section 8 housing
Exactly.
money and other, that could,
Most
we could be
vulnerable.
making a stand, but we also put in jeopardy some of the most vulnerable people in our community.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
And to make sure we understand,
And the
the
consequences.
community understands what it means going forward.
Yeah.
So this was a first step.
Yes, it's not a final, and I don't think, and it was unanimous amongst, I think, everybody on council.
It was a unanimous.
It's troubled by the discussions that's happening nationally, and don't feel it's a step forward in any ways. And it's important to make a statement, but make sure we understand exactly what we're making a statement on.
Right.
So,
And then maybe, the way I read the resolution, it looks like you're asking for advice on
Yep.
whether there are ways to do it that
What are
may
appropriate
be able to
means.
navigate
Yeah.
what, to sort
Without
of get
losing
what
the
you
fund.
want
Yeah.
without risking your money,
Yeah,
if that's
and
possible.
what are the available options, and, are there other, litigation is
Right.
always, but doing that separately is not good, if there's other communities, if there's other ways to be able to do things.
Are there any other options?
Yeah,
I-
are they, what is available
Yeah.
and what we can do, so.
I mean, are there? I mean, do we know
Um,
if we can do it without losing those critical things?
We're not sure.
I-
We haven't got definitive yes or no, so.
In the meantime, I have also asked the attorney's office whether they could look at the Ypsilanti is also trying to move on the don't ask policy, whether we could have an ordinance change and whether they could be able to provide us with the ordinance language. So if we don't have information collected about whether it's religious, ethnic, or national status, there's nothing to share.
Now, my
Only if you go-
understanding is that our police do not ask.
Yeah,
us.
but but to make it an ordinance,
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
not just a
It's a
resolution, it's not a
practice, but it's not a
recommendation.
requirement.
Yeah, we want it more concrete, then
Okay.
it has to be an ordinance, so I have requested the attorney's department to work on that and let us know. And I've also asked the attorney's office whether we could join in any other lawsuits filed by other jurisdictions, or whether we could ourselves file a lawsuit based on, I mean, this is a small town with lots of people coming from all over the world. I mean, it does affect the very functioning and root of ours. So that's another issue. So while we haven't said that we are not going to go the sanctuary city route or not, that's the staff are going to advise us on the what are the consequences or implications of that. But at the same time, I think it is just best that we explore other avenues where we can have all these protection without actually explicitly calling ourselves sanctuary city and maybe losing millions of dollars, especially that goes to most vulnerable of our community. So I do have a request. Kai spoke to a couple of council members, and they also said that I just put it out to you because this is the commission that explicitly deals with human rights violations, and many of these, whether it's going to be a Muslim registry or banning people based on their religion, is overtly a human rights violation. So I guess we just need to be maybe, I don't know, to have an ad hoc committee or whatever when new things come in to advise us, because I see like we are inundated and overwhelmed with phone calls and emails from the community, which is great because we are supposed to represent their interests. But it would be also good to have kind of an advisory board like this advising on us, because there are so many of you are lawyers, you know what's going on, and kind of advising us too. Do you know what I mean?
Do you have a relationship with Wicker by any chance?
No.
This Wicker is the Washington Interfaith Council on something. I don't remember, but they handle a lot of the immigration. They're
ICE.
fabulous. They handle ICE. They handle a lot of undocumented immigrants, and I'm on their mailing list. I get their stuff. It's this Laura Sanders.
What I'm maybe I didn't speak correctly. What I would like to get from you guys is more like advice. For example, this ordinance. I mean, having a don't ask. I know our police doesn't go and ask this information, but we don't have an ordinance. I later found out things like that. I mean, it's not how to deal with ICE. I mean, maybe that I need to know that too, but more in the advisory nature of rules and laws and ordinances and what we can do to protect Ann Arbor from the executive branch's infringement.
I'm wondering if we are having any communication with other cities that are trying to do the same thing, because I think there's a group in Detroit that are trying to move that there. So, and I'm sure that other cities might follow suit. So that might be helpful to see if a group of cities, not only Ann Arbor, that might make our stand stronger.
And I think that's what the advice we're looking at. What can we actually do? Because, you know, we don't collect information, but if an illegal immigrant or undocumented immigrant is held in prison and then there is a warrant, a federal warrant, we have no choice but to actually, you know, we can't disobey the absolute rule of law and practice procedures, but what we can and can't do to make sure that Ann Arbor remains, and I think Chuck Warbowski brought it up, that, you know, if we have folks who live in our community, they're not afraid to go to the police because they're thinking they're going to get turned into immigration or something else, that, you know, we create the environment where people are willing to work and feel safe within the community and not feel threatened by trying to do the right things. And then that and I think the idea of a registry or anything else is reprehensible, and you know, that we don't even consider going down that and try to make the appropriate statement that we can within our community, and whether it's you know, working with other communities, and that's kind of what we've asked staff to do. What are our options out there? What can we do? You know, what are the best courses of action to be able to go forward?
Yeah, especially with this condition. I mean, even today I was reading about those emails that are going out, right? I mean, attacking minority students. So especially in this situation where minorities are being attacked and in a vulnerable situation, you don't want a situation where they don't go to the police or they don't complain or they don't give the information out because they themselves fear that if they go to the police, they're going to be arrested, right? So.
Well, following up on what you said, I mean, I suppose if there were some people on this commission who want to do the work, we could be calling around to other cities. I don't know if the city attorney is going to look at it from a legal point of view, right, and say, but are they actually, I feel like all these cities like ours are trying to reinvent the wheel themselves. I don't know how much talking between them there is.
Well, you know what, there are ways to do that pretty easily. First of all, I know that Traverse City is looking because they wrote to us. I know that Detroit had declared itself a sanctuary city, and we're wondering what that meant. But we could get in touch with them too. We can ask Michigan Department of Civil Rights. They probably know who's who, and we can get together with them.
That would be great, because then, as you
I'd
said,
be
you don't have to
happy
reinvent
to
the
do
wheel.
that.
Right.
We
Yes.
can go to a higher state.
And we could share that with the city
Absolutely.
attorney,
Right.
which they can do
It's a
what they
good
want
idea,
with
thank
it.
you. That
Would
would
not the Michigan Municipal League have that information?
I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
don't think
Yeah.
that's-
Yeah.
I mean,
What
these
There are more
cities-
legislation
Yeah.
and what's happening at
Yeah,
Lansing.
these cities are all trying to figure it out right now.
Yeah.
They probably, a lot of them haven't quite figured it out, or maybe not sure what to call it, or whether to codify it, or whether to try to figure some way around it. I think it's all new for a lot of
But
them.
it would be very neat if cities in Michigan could get together, because it would also help balance any thing that originates in Michigan.
Exactly.
Which is.
Yeah, because that was another thing that was being floated, that if a city declared itself as a sanctuary city, that Lansing was going to cut their state funds, the state revenue
right.
sharing. Yeah.
Oh, well.
So that's a big chunk too for
well,
us.
but
Is that on hold though?
Yeah, it
While
doesn't
the
pass.
Ninth Circuit
Yeah, it
is
doesn't
hearing
pass
the
yet.
arguments.
Yeah.
And then we already know it's gonna go to the Supreme Court, regardless of whatever their decision is. I mean,
Oh.
they're already saying that. They haven't made a decision, I just looked. But they are
No,
still,
not today.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're still receiving oral arguments, is what they've said. But let's say for the sake of argument that it does go, as many are saying it will, to the Supreme Court, and an ultimate decision is made that this is stricken, you know, that,
Yeah.
then what?
It's stricken, so ban is illegal.
Okay, so, but I'm saying you've already proposed this, so would this go away, or?
This is a little bit different.
Yeah,
Not necessarily, yeah.
yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah. No,
Is there
my
any-
guess
Because
is this is
will
gonna
come
be,
in
he's
different
gonna.
iteration.
That's
Yeah,
right.
but I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
I
what's
mean,
the-
ban might.
what's the
No,
plan?
but I see, it's my understanding, I think I'm a little confused here, that this is about not just the people
Ban,
from the seven
exactly.
banned countries.
Right.
This is about any kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
of
Absolutely.
undocumented immigrant,
It's a
probably
broader-
mostly from Mexico, really.
Exactly.
Right.
Or South America, or Latin America, or whatever. So I think we're not
So
just
it-
talking about the ban.
Yeah, because the
Understood, but that was inclusive in this.
Yeah.
And then just a comment, on the first page, the whereas paragraph just before the last one,
Mhm.
you said that council has already acted on this. Please correct President Barack Obama's correct spelling of his first name. That spelling there is incorrect. I'm a little anal about certain things, that's one of them. It's spelled with a C, and the way it's spelled there is incorrect.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then the other question that I had is on the very last page, very last paragraph, where it's resolved. After the resolution, you have 4 employee, and I just wondered if that shouldn't be employees,
Mhm.
because there's more than one employee who's covered by the collective bargaining agreement, so. I heard you all say that this has been enacted, it has already been acted
It's
on by
probably
council.
too late.
Well, I'm just saying, since it's a
Yeah.
work in progress,
Yeah.
then have that,
Make
make
it
those
start,
corrections,
right.
and, yeah.
Okay. Well, this was for information. I want to make sure that we don't have a strategic plan. We've got lots on our plate, but this is potentially important also.
Very important,
So I'm thinking we're gonna see, start finding out what the options are and I'll talk to Michigan Department of Civil Rights and,
Okay. So why don't you enlist help from us by email in
okay,
tracking
I'll
down
find
the
out what's
city?
necessary.
Okay.
Okay. Similarly, I went to an all-PAC meeting, which is I never remember what it stands for, but it's Police and Community Action. The meetings have like 70 people, whom 3/4 of whom are all sorts of law enforcement personnel. And they announced this new initiative. Comes from an executive order by Governor Snyder, who is interested in good policing for the state, building trust, 21st century policing, has all the right words. I don't know what he really wants, but he's asked for it, and so I think he should get it. He asked for a report from MCOLS, which is the group that sets the standards for the Michigan police, to write a report by May 1st, which is not very much time, about how to build community trust, what are the perceptions, how can we have safe, secure cities and still have community trust and happiness. MCOLS decided they needed more information, and they formed a survey. The survey is not bad. It gives a lot of opportunity for people to write in about their experiences with police and also about what they think should be changed to make policing better for the Michigan citizens. It's an important questionnaire. What's especially important about it is that MCOLS is doing the publicizing. There's no random sample. There's no way, this is, you all come and answer. So they're going to get thousands of responses, but they're going to be responses that MCOLS and people like ALPAC, who are, 75% law enforcement, will answer. We want other people to answer. We want the city to answer. And so what we're doing, we've got it on our website now. It's on the police website as well. It is worth telling everybody you know, and it is also translated in Arabic and in Spanish, so we can get a paper and pencil version out to people who need that. I sent it to the Wicker group. Luai has it.
How about the NAACP?
I sent it to NAACP. He sent it to NAACP.
Oh, great.
I think it's important, even though in some ways, and I called them and asked them, I think if we push it in Ann Arbor, it's going to make Ann Arbor look bad because, people other than law enforcement are filling it out. And it is for the community, supposedly, but these are not people who really know how to get to the community, I think.
Is that something that, Vivian, did you happen to ask Lisa about that, or maybe not?
It's already posted there.
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
It's posted on the city
yeah,
website,
the city
not just the
website
police.
already posted. The Ann Arbor Police Department also posted it.
Okay, both.
Yeah.
And
Thank
so
you.
it's shareable. I shared it myself.
Okay, great.
And I also wrote to Ryan Stanton and I asked him to send
Oh.
it. So,
Good idea.
I'm
Okay.
working on it.
Thank you.
But we need
Good.
everybody to
Makes
work
it-
on it.
yeah.
And what I was told by MCOLS was that they were not going to do it by city, they would do it by county. And they know that that's going to happen, and they know the limitations of it. But they also know that they're going to focus on the recommendations, I hope. And therefore they want lots of recommendations. So let's give it to them. I mean, I think it's, how many times you asked, right?
Yeah.
Let's give it to them. I think that's all. Election of officers, I think that's the end of our meeting. We can go home early when I thought we would be here all night. Anything else? Election of officers. Lou, I want you to talk about, you're the person who has received any nominations that have existed for recommendations for officers. What have you got?
I think the nominations for David.
Pardon?
David has
David
received
Baum?
he has been nominated to vice president,
Vice Chair?
vice chair. Yes.
And last month, Leslie was nominated.
I was nominated by
By
Linda,
me.
thank you, or by you?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank
to be
you.
chair.
So this is a fiercely run battle, and but we do need, our bylaws say we have to vote.
Is it acceptable to see if anybody else wants to put their
We could do
name
that.
into it? Because it's,
Absolutely.
Nominations are a little bit like, forcing people in a
Yeah.
little bit. But if there's anybody else that would like to, they should say so.
I would consider vice chair.
Okay.
If it's okay to self-nominate.
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Sure. Why don't we have a secret ballot, and Lou, I will count them? Is that
Sure.
fair?
Yeah.
Does everybody have a piece of paper, or do you want me to give you
No, that they'll look the same, maybe a white piece, yeah.
a white piece of
Yeah.
paper?
We should make sure anyone else. So right now, the two nominees are Vivian and
Right.
myself.
Yeah. Is there anybody else? speak now. No, this is not. I think this is enough. Yeah, two more. I will vote yes. Thank you.
I cannot vote because I am a liaison to the city council.
Yep.
Do we technically have to vote for you as well, for chair?
Yep.
Yes, you do. Or don't. Or write somebody in.
Yeah, we'll let Heather count them maybe? Or-
Yeah, Heather,
Oh,
do you want to?
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fine, thank you. Just 'cause I have to send it to city. Or the proposal language.
Oh,
One more.
To send it to Sarah tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. This is just vice chair, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what-
Put down chair too, because,
Oh.
No,
No,
I did too.
yeah.
I mean, it's not, I'll
We have to.
keep it in mind, but.
You're not going anywhere, Leslie, sorry.
I'd hate to lose if I was telling you what I feel, but hey. We probably can't keep meeting like this, you know? At some point, I'm going to retire. But it's getting too much fun.
Okay. How do you want, like, the number or the?
Do
Or
we need
just
the
who?
numbers?
Just the result.
I think just the
Just the
results.
So, David for vice chair.
But thank you.
Well,
Vivian.
thank you very
for
much.
putting
Thank
that
you.
in. Yeah.
I want to congratulate Vivian on a hard run campaign.
I want you to know it's just an honor to serve with all of you.
Yeah. And I hope that Vivian, you will
I hope you will.
lead at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I have
That wasn't signed.
just a question. The status of the complaints, and just FYI, there was nothing on the phone.
Okay.
And there's nothing new in
No, but
terms
we
of
have 3
complaints
complaints
on the,
right.
via the email.
Right.
So I just wanted, I know that you have
Right, and
reached
thank you
out.
for being so vigilant about checking.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. No, that's
Usually
It's
really
on my
does nice.
homepage, so I just click on it.
Thank
Well, I'll tell you,
Brilliant.
we are
Thank
getting
you.
more,
Lot of activity.
more activity. We
Yeah.
have 3
Right.
complaints in the
In process.
process.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's an awful lot more than we had last January, I can tell you that.
Mhm.
So, and I think with these flyers, we're going to get more, and maybe they'll end up having to hire somebody to deal with them, but we've made a really good start. And I think also, just, some of these are on hold, some of them are not gonna go through to fruition. However, I think so far this year, and last year too, I think everybody happy that there's a place to go, and they wanted to talk about it, and it, somehow this city's just a little bit better because we're doing it.
So this is more of a question for either Graydon or Sumi, and I'm projecting into the future. So we're going to get lots of complaints. Right now, we're calling from our individual home phones. Will the city allow us or designate or allocate a place with a phone and resources for us to do it officially from here?
Yes.
So that we're not putting ourselves, if you will, in harm's way, potential harm's way.
Yeah, absolutely.
By contacting
Yes.
these individuals.
On your personal phones.
By the way, if you're concerned, this is what Safe House does. You can blank out your phone number.
Yeah, I know, I can do
Okay,
that from this.
okay.
But I'm
But
just
the-
saying, at some point, it's going to be more than, carrying around the cell phone and then being at the mercy of,
Right.
because it's gonna be a little bit more involved. So, one of the things that we had discussed for those of us who are involved in it, and I know you had raised this question a lot, about who could be involved and if you wanna be involved and what does it entail. But I'm looking to the future where we're going to be more involved, and it's going to require more of our time. Right now, we're utilizing our own personal resources to
Right.
address these concerns, mainly because we don't have a whole lot and it's not really gonna take that much time. But at some point, we're using the letterhead that you had at least sent to me when,
Right.
I responded to people who had inquired last year. And then, I'm just looking at, I think the three of us had talked about how do we actually handle the complaints? Right now we're divvying up the responsibility, but for the other commission members who may want to be involved, you don't have the benefit of knowing, I know we copied you on it, but I'll just share for the benefit of the entire body. One of the complaints that came in spoke to a respondent where at least two of us are not going to be involved in that complaint because we're employed by the respondent. So that's an automatic recusal, for any complaint that comes in. But we also kind of talked amongst ourselves like, well, do we bring whatever we do back to the full body of the commission, or do we just decide amongst ourselves? So I think we probably may want to speak to, I had suggested that we come up with some procedures of what will govern so that no matter what, we're all on the same page and we're all doing what we have determined we will do for every complaint received, with some exceptions. Some things are non-jurisdictional, so that's not going to be applicable. But for those that we make a determination is legitimate and we can address it, unless we decide to refer and recommend onward, then we need to know what will be done procedurally, what governs. And I know that the agencies, I kind of went on kind of a little bit in the emails that we traded about what my experience has been for the agencies that I've been employed in and how they have a set procedure that governs for all complaints so that that's followed religiously. We don't have to be necessarily that structured, but we do need to have some structure in place so that we know exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to respond.
Right. And we have gotten more structures since we've started. We're sort of building on our experience as we go. But
In terms of actual city resources, I think that's a discussion needs to have with Mr. Lazarus, because I think, office space is tight no matter what for anybody. And I would think at a point, you don't want to be doing phone calls back in open cubicles. So it would require some type of private space, whether, it's a reserved conference room, specifically X amount of hours or times during the week or something for you, but it would require some confidentiality to be able to do it effectively. So I think it's a discussion with the city administrator, or at least raise it, and then you can start thinking about it as situation or demand develops and be able to address it.
Right. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we'll
No.
get,
Yeah, but I mean,
it's possible.
I mean, even, it's minor at this point, but I've been keeping a hard copy of all these things. So which means I'm printing out, and sometimes people have a lot of attachments,
Right.
but, you know,
Right.
so just a couple reams of.
That's
paper,
right. Yeah.
you know,
I see.
it would be nice, you know, just things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Things to think about.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else before we break up? We really can do this. I think we're allowed to leave at 8:30.
Can I say something before you break up?
Sure.
I just want to say my name is Shirley Beckley, and you know, I've been coming for quite a while.
And been very
So-
active around this police review
Yeah.
issue. All.
And I'm glad to see that you have made some headway, and we're moving forward. And I have a gift for each of one of you. I do a calendar of our black community, so I brought one for each of you.
Wow.
For putting up with me. So I want to give it to all of you.
Thank you very much.
What a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Very kind of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is for 2017.
Oh, that's really nice, Shirley, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shirley.
You're very welcome.
Well, why don't you give it to the
I
members?
have enough
You
for
have enough?
everybody.
Oh, thank you so much,
Wow.
Shirley.
It's something
this
I
is
try
great.
to do every year, but
Wonderful.
I
Thank you
missed
so
a few
much.
years. Because I don't always have a graphic artist, and I don't know how to be graphic.
On paper. What? It looks like you might. Wow. Oh, this is terrific.
Wonderful, Shirley.
Thank you so much.
I need to talk to your
Thank you.
wife about her granddaddy.
Okay.
We would like to feature him.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Wow.
Want to talk to Diana too?
Yes, I'm going to talk to Diana too. And I want to thank you again, and I'm glad to see that we're moving along.
Shirley, please circulate that questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we've got a mailing list now of about, are we off record?
I don't think so. I don't think we've adjourned the meeting.
Oh. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.